So what do you think could be done about this?
Well, as we transition from the agrarian age to the industrial age, we developed a social contract. We figured out that people were going to live in the city. They'd need a social safety net. They couldn't just grow things to stay alive. We figured out they needed to be literate, so we created public education, made a law that you have to go to school. The law. We figured out that you can't have one oil company owning all the oil, so we created anti-monopoly legislation. Well, I don't think that we've done any of this as we move to the whole digital age. That we need to come up with a new understanding. And I talk about a number of dimensions for that social contract that are required and that we're going to need to do some work. But the old social contract talked about jobs, and full employment is the primary vehicle to distribute wealth and other benefits like healthcare and income security and so on. Well, that's now being disrupted. We have a new period of structural unemployment that's about to emerge. We talked about inequality being managed by governments, that through policy, tax, redistribution of wealth, and so on, we'd create social safety nets to protect people, enable them to retire, to be unemployed, sick, old, disabled, old. Well, that's now being broken down too. A third one was the whole issue of power in society. We had business and labor, these pillars of the social contract. And organized labor was viewed as an important component, ensuring the voice of labor in decision-making and so on. And we had sovereign governments that set policies within their jurisdiction that were in the public interest, with a reasonable expectation of their effect to make them fair society. Well, that's now been broken down too. Corporations have become all-powerful. Governments are being viewed as, since Ronald Reagan, the best government is no government. And the labor movement in the United States has pretty much been wiped out. So I think we're going to have to move to a new kind of contract where we talk about more democratic ownership of the economy. A fourth one was democracy. We had this view that that people can vote in fair and open elections to get governments that represent them and act in the public interest. Well, that's now totally broken. In the United States, for example, these institutions are increasingly accountable to their funders, not to citizens. So we're going to need to use blockchain technology to move towards a new model of participative democracy, where through smart contracts, politicians and elected representatives are accountable to citizens, not to big money. So this goes on. There are a whole number of these big transformations that are underway. Just consider the idea of our individual freedom, that we have the right to personal privacy, security, autonomy of the individual. Well, that's been threatened now. We have loss of control of personal information, identity, growing cyber crimes, all kinds of fraud, identity theft. We have a large-scale commercialization of personal data, often without our own knowledge. And we increasingly spend time in this digital world where the underlying algorithms are not clear to us. In the physical world, I'm holding a wallet right now. If I drop that wallet, it's going to fall down because I'm aware of the forces that govern that. In this case, gravity. But in the digital world, I post something on Facebook. I have no idea what's happening to it. I have no idea why things are appearing on my screen that influence me.